Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand final of the Tribunal stage. Tribunal number 2, no less. We've got an interesting best of 5 for you to decide things. I think it's very interesting because of this man on your screen, ArbuzBudesh, our Zerg in the bottom right. He seems to be pumpkin? Vivid orange, in fact. Vivid orange Zerg. And in the bottom left we have Oya, the maroon Protoss. Oya, a Starcraft 1 Pro from Sweden. Arbuz, a homie from Ukraine. He's been taking a lot of surprising victories, surprising dubs in the last little bit in the Tribunal stage. It's something that I didn't initially predict. And so to see him getting active here, to see him in the grand final, 1 best of 5 away, 3 map wins away from qualifying to the Tribunal stage, or through the Tribunal stage to the Battlement stage, the groups that are going to be played later on. There's something about it that just feels very special, very eerie. It's the Cinderella story, and you're wondering if it's going to turn into the pumpkin or, you know, go the whole way through the ball without worrying too much about magic starting to foment a different way. We got a 2-gate opener for Oya. He's very practiced against Zerg, having fought against Ziki most recently, who finally got the better of him in a grand final of a weekend wage. Not exactly the expectation there either. But Oya's been marauding through Cosmonarchy competitions. He took out Han Mono 3-0, Newt 3-0. That was the quarterfinal and the semifinal. And he will have to face off against a different race instead of Terran 3 times in a row. With Arbuz dispensing with Dog and Ramen, we find ourselves in a PvZ grand final. So I hope you are all excited. We got the 3-gate start here. We got the Scribe moving up to the top right, scouting his opponent last. Oya will not be immediately aware of his opponent. And look at this, Arbuz going for pool into Shroud, a very fast Shroud. This kind of dates back to, this is more aggressive than I remember. This dates back to the last Battlement stage that we had when Jack Yelansky was showing a sort of 12 Shroud build. At 12 workers, you make the Shroud. And the early Zeths are going to be somewhat efficient here in the early stages, but this one is at 9. He was, or 10 or 9 workers he was at the, you know, depending on how you count it. So pretty interesting there. Going to power up to a few extra workers, and Arbuz is going to see what he can do with these Zeths. This is a bit of a heavier committal than you typically see. Not quite able to surround that Ecclesiast, though. Could have been a good opportunity. It looks like he will finally sink his claws into it now. And he's going to just see if he can duke it out versus that Zealot, but the speed boost from that Ecclesiast is enough. Oh yeah, going to have to stutter step. He's going to have to get some more action. 3 Scribes loose in the base. There's 3 Zeths in the base and 3 idle Scribes. That's clearly what I meant, guys. The Shroud is going to finish pretty soon, and I think really you can say job's done by those Zeths. They've delayed the initial move out long enough for the Shroud to be completed, and now we've got 2 Likizilisks on the way. So Arbuz came with a very clear game plan here. He knew that Oya was going to most likely go for the 3-gate style and try to go Zealot Ecclesiast. He wants to bypass the early game of trying to repost that with Quas, repost that with Zethicors, and he just wants to go straight for Lakes and expand after that, because he knows that Oya's expansion of his own is going to be a bit delayed. You see that Nexus being thrown down now? It's an opportunity for Arbuz to take and hold his natural and be very elegant, very safe in the process. Those 2 Lakes are done. He can start taking the fight, and unless Oya wants to commit much more aggressively, well, you got to be a little bit guarded here. Oya's like #1 for standing on top of Lakes and finding ways to kill them, even without detection. You do reveal burrowed units when you stand over them, so you can see Arbuz clearly invested in taking this expansion. I'd love for him to throw down another macro hatch behind this as well with the extra money that he's got. And Oya's looking around for something he can do, but he does not have Dracodons. 3 of them are on the way in the production queue. We've got more Ecclesiasts sauntering on. There's the macro hatch. It's going to be used as a body block. Well, a lot of surface area available. He's going to cancel that. Thankfully, he does at the right time. And he can just go ahead and put it back down. See if he can buy a little bit more time for it to provide more HP. Honestly, I'm worried about Arbuz not having enough Lakes, but the SimCity is really good for him to kind of funnel Oya through. When the Dracodons come in here, it'll be a bit of a different story, but this is definitely a more reinforced position. Oya thinks about the angle. He feels like he can maybe make it happen. The Zets are going to try to hold those Zealots away from standing on top of the Lakes, and everything was in a nice little line there. You can really tell that Arbuz has come in with a really good game plan. 3 Lakes on the way. The Dracodons are starting to arrive, though. There's no Hydrath Den, so contesting them in a more conventional position is going to be challenging. No Drolettes pulled to make any static defense. The Lakes are going to try to wrap around, it looks like, and see what they can do for the burrow. And you can tell he's trying to get on top of those zealots so that they can't reveal. Not quite able to do it, though, and not quite able to unburrow in time either. That's a lot of dead Zeths. Only a few dead zealots. Frontline is dwindling, though. He's got to cycle back and maybe try to pounce on that last zealot. Remember, those extra Lakes are coming up. Oh, he's just allowing them to path right in, though. Oh, look at that. The Qua's body blocking. The zealot pulled away. That 1 HP Lake is staying alive. That was one Ecclesiast hit or one Draconin hit away from a sure death. Still trying to pelt this hatch. This is very evocative of, you know, some of the top-level StarCraft 1 ZVPs that you'll see where the macro hatch in the choke, so to speak, is getting heckled, getting dismantled by early Dragoons in the rare cases that those show up. Really interesting to see this kind of meta switch, but we do have behind it a well-developed Oya economy. Arb is very low on workers for a very long time. Gotta defend defensively. Gotta hold defensively, cost-efficiently on that defense. Circuit coming up. I don't know. Those Draconins are going to start to take a beating from all the Lakes. And when the Zoryu starts to come in to slow them down, to rend their armor, it's going to be a lot easier as well. But, you know, we don't see a whole flood of Zeths coming just yet. The Circuit is very defensively placed, like very far back. And I wonder if he's just expecting Oya to charge forward with a bunch of Zealot Ecclesiast later on, or maybe try to commit. You can see he's adding another macro hatch. He's adding this extra Kagrant, which should be a Circuit, most definitely. Unless he wants to go for the Khaz'it route. He has the Vespene for that. That wouldn't suck to try to fall back to a more defensive position. Maybe abandon this hatch at that point, though. I don't know. Behind this, we already have really good tech development. We'll take a look, right? Servitors, we got Wardens, we got a Prostration Stage. Just to show you guys what's going on. A couple of Ecclesiasts going down. They trade out for the Zets and the Quas. There's a one burrowed Zeth here as well, by the way, which is pretty funny. It's a Larvosk, actually. That's a bit bold. And going straight for the Ulgorg and the Hydras then at the same time. Arbuz wants to flood some Ultras out and some Hydras out. That seems to be his way to go. It's an interesting style, man. Arbuz has thought about this. They played this just yesterday on the time of recording. Love to see that they're getting active. Love to see that they're making things happen. I don't know what more we're going to see from Arbuz as he's adding another... Oh, he didn't intend to make that into a... Okay. He wanted that to be a Khaz'it, not a Larvosk, so he misbought that. I was going to say, that's pretty bold to go for a Larvosk there. That's all right. He should still have it in time for the hold. Second Prostration Stage on the way. And, you know, the downside here is that Oya has the Contain up. Now, there is a side passageway out on this map, which is kind of cute. We'll see if Arbuz wants to go for it at any point, but he's kind of just getting pelted. The Zoryus being singled out. It can turn into an Ultra Core to make that the missing HP not matter too much. You can tell Arbuz wants to see if he can go. He gets the one tag on with the Zoryus before it falls, and the Lakes go ahead and get their burrow off. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with. The Witness, not quite enough to help. Some of the last Ecclesiasts are falling. The Hydras can skirmish with the Draconins a lot better. Uh-oh. No more frontline, though. As Arbuz overextended away from his position of power. Sort of cycles backwards a little bit. As the Zeths start to flood out and the Hydras find their opportunity. The Lakes aren't moving. This is not an extended fight that Arbuz wants to take. He's just trying to buy a little bit more time. He's got so many minerals, man, that he's not quite spending down. He wants to go ahead and take an extra base. It'll be base number 3 at the 6 o'clock, but look, the Zealot Servitor army is going to be heading that direction. 9 o'clock being taken by Oya. Big worker transfer as well. Uh-oh. They're finding an interesting path to get there. They'll get there eventually. Oh, no, they won't. Well, that's funny. I don't think I've seen anybody transfer from there. Impressive pathfinding, that's for sure. All right. The Servitors go down. They have the same passive when the Ecclesiast dies, so that will speed things up. Look, the Zealot Servitor from 6 o'clock comes back up to uppercut the Lakes and spread their damage out way too much for Arbuz to get much done. And just like that, everything is going kaput. He's got his Zoryus down, but he hasn't bought enough time to actually turn them into Ultra Cores. It takes a while for that mutation to finish. Witness is spotted 6 o'clock being gestated as well. No Ava left to clear the Witnesses in Arbuz's neck of the woods. And really, he doesn't have a lot of time to assemble something a bit more defensive. Adding those macro hatches, as we might have expected. The Hydras are going to be pushed away. The Zoryus can get active and try to slow things down. But the Ultra Core is dead in the egg. Killed in the cradle. I don't know right about now. It feels like the Zets are going to help out more than Oya initially bargained for. There is the one Ultra Core that will finish, and with the Pariah going down, the DPS might not quite be there. That's the last of the attack speed buffs. Never mind. We've got another Pariah. The Ultra Core trying to do battle with it. Oh, and yeah, just like that, the last of the attack speed buffs for real this time are gone. But I think that Ultra Core is going to be pelted down. It was a very hard-fought battle there. We got Zephyr Cores coming out. I don't know if that's going to be quite enough with the DPS. You could see, if Arbuz had like 6 more Hydras already here, it would be an open and shut case where he'd be able to take this fight. But as it is, it's a lot more awkward. He's got some Zets kind of piling up over here. And he's going to need to go and defend his 6 o'clock base, as it is now going to be the subject of ire. But he won't be able to, not with the Pariah and the Zealots. Expanding towards your opponent was a bit of a bold move there from Arbuz. Remember, he hasn't really been able to move across the map successfully in some time. Hydra's starting to mass up. It looks like a couple of them might get misrallied if he's not careful. And there we go. Mineral-only base being taken. Looks like top left natural also going to be in the sight of Oya. And this is the scary part, right? We have Gorger Cores coming for Arbuz, but he's not going to be able to, for free, just kind of path into the enemy base and kill all the workers the way that we've seen Zerg do to Protoss in the past. No Avaleth still to clear these witnesses. But it's a closer match than maybe people initially thought. Like, is Arbuz going to continue doing his thing? Well, the answer right now seems to be yes. He's going to give it a good attempt anyway. A lot of Hydrazeth. Extra gateways being added now that he's securing that mineral only. Oya feels like he can afford that for sure. Keep his money low. Yeah, pretty big forces being assembled here. This is actually pretty deadly, depending on how the Pariahs get activated, though. Oh, all of them clumped up like that is not good. The Gorger Core is almost immediately getting domed by those Pariahs. Very deadly, very dangerous. The flank is not coming. There's more Pariahs coming down. The production advantage here, just way too much for Oya, it feels like. That's way too crushing, man. Yeah, he calls GG immediately knowing that there was no chance for that sort of thing going for him. And yeah, Arbuz dropping in that one. A little bit of an anticlimactic ending because at the end of the day, his army was just not positioned properly to handle Oya. But you know, there was a chance there. I mean, if he can try to get a little bit more active on the map, if he can somehow, you know, break the contain a bit more cleanly, a bit easier, get up to a better amount of workers, we can definitely see a solid performance out of Arbuz in map number 2. I didn't talk about the veto. We will be going to Knife's Edge for map 2. Mass Destruction was Oya's pick, interestingly enough. Let's see what happens in game 2. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Oya, our yellow Protoss in the top left. Arbuz, vivid orange once again in the mid-right, the 3 o'clock position. Excuse me. Thank you for joining us for another round of Cause Monarchy. The winner of this match goes straight to the Battlement stage, and depending on their internal seeding, will likely be the head of a group, as it is indeed the first port of call here. The first 2 Tribunal stages typically do end up getting their own group. Top 4 from the previous Acropolis are also invited. That means that our current invitees, Ziki winning Tribunal number 1's consolidation phase. Obviously, runners-up Ayud 64, winner and champion, hit 'em up. And then we have 3rd and 4th place Hamster and Krankendow getting their way directly to the Battlement stage, skipping out on the gauntlet. No requirements there, no need. Bit of a surprise lineup if Oya joins or Arbuz joins. Arbuz would be a bigger surprise, but you know, if you told me that for the next Acropolis we'll have 2 StarCraft 1 pros guaranteed, it feels like Oya's locked in. Even if it's not today, even if it's not in this series, he sticks with the game, he likes the game, he prioritizes it over even StarCraft 1 stuff, which is really cool to hear, really cool to see. He's a cool guy, man. So I'll say that he's going to get it in. He's going to find his way in one way or another. Will Arbuz stand in his way? It's a Hydroth Open. Ziki popularized this kind of build and in more recent times actually abandoned it as far as Zerg goes. That start for Arbuz was looking pretty good. I feel like maybe the biggest thing is that he just didn't quite trade as efficiently as maybe he ought to have. Maybe he didn't get enough done with the Zets as he ought to have. And I can imagine different adjustments the Protoss can make to make that build a lot less convincing. But it's just an interesting situation to be in. You know, you got to think about it. You got to consider it. And what does the Protoss want to do into that? But that fast Shroud, getting those Lakes, the SimCity helping out quite a bit. Let's see if it can work on a map like Knife's Edge at a later date, because it won't be on display this time around. Now, the Scribe is staying alive long enough to scout additional Izira cores. The first Hydra is actually getting surrounded. Arbuz, no! Arbuz has lost his first Hydra. No contest. And there's no more Vespene being harvested for him right now. He clearly wants to go ahead and expand behind the, 5 or so Izira cores he's going to have. It's going to be Hierophant, Dracodon, and the Rogue Gallery points towards Kabbalist play. Back when Arbuz was more of a Protoss player, and, in the last little bit, he's played Zerg in Weekend Wages, 2 of them, in the Tribunal stage. When he was a Protoss player, he was a little bit ornery about the Kabbalists. He kind of looked at it thinking, like he would kind of just insta GG if you sent it to him. This is a long time ago. But I wonder how he feels, as a Zerg player, right? We saw Zeke respond to it with just a lot of, I guess you would call it just a lot of Ovaleths, like passive detection, just monitoring each base. Is something that you kind of want to do as a Zerg in ZVP StarCraft 1, so it's pretty familiar to him. Arbuz, though, is he going to be aware of that? Now, he's got 8 or so Izira cores coming in. He can try to sick his acid all over this place. Yeah, it looks like he might actually be good for it. Those Zealots are going to be not long for this world, and we don't get an attack speed increase from that Hierophant. It's actually very low, as we currently see. So this is a bit of pressure from the Izira core that isn't immediately something that you would expect. Remember, the Kabbalist is earmarked for that main base, though. So if this doesn't kill Oya right dead, which is unlikely to do, he's going to have to deal with a lot of stuff back at home. And Arbuz currently is not paying attention. He wants to go after the workers. He wants to get a lot of worker damage, but the decollision to stand his ground. I can't believe it, but Arbuz's Izira cores are unlikely to get anything else here. Looks like they killed a few workers, but back at home, that Kabbalist, it had done away with, 3 or 4 Droleth. Probably fairly even then. It looks like he killed 2 workers, but did a lot more damage to the military. Now, Oya wants to move across the map. And Arbuz, he's making a lot of workers, but he's also making 3 Izira cores. He has a couple Hydras. I don't think that he can actually set up a successful defense here, but the biggest problem is that the Kabbalist can slip the net, go straight into the main base, and then the Dracodons can keep the military units engaged, right? You're going to cycle back with that Hydra, kill this 1 worker, reveal the Kabbalist. Oh, that's an easy pick then. Might have been a little bit ambitious. You can see Arbuz, he's doing his best to just charge forward. He needs to maybe focus down the Kabbalist. Is he going to be able to? No, the answer is not. Affirmative. We've got 3 more Hydras, 3 more Izira cores, but they just now started. This is dangerous. The Circuit is going to be made, but how much damage is he actually going to be able to get done here? It doesn't look like... Oh, man. It feels like, yeah, I think Arbuz is just taking a little bit too much damage, actually. That in the back is the Dracodon with full HP, and he can't quite recover from that one. GG is called as more units were streaming on in, and that is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Game 2, done and dusted. A bit of a rush one, and Oya will take it. Dangerous, man. Dangerous. All right, ladies and gentlemen. It is looking a little bit dire for ArbuzBudesh, the Russian green Zerg in the bottom right, and Oya, the top left, Ultramarine Protoss. He seems to be just about ready to wrap us up here. The rush in Game 2 was a lot more his style. Arbuz tried to get some good counter damage done, but wasn't accounting for the Kabbalist, so that's a crafty little thing to throw in a bit of a wrench to throw in to all of the plans Arbuz may have been having. We're on to Oya's own map pick of Patadia for Game 3, and he's going to Gateway Scout, as he often does. Arbuz setting up for what I believe will be a pool start into a Larvosk. So, no, it's a Hydrith then. It's just a bit late. Interesting. Oh, it's a Hydrith first. I can't remember if Zeke... I think he did do Hydrith first, actually, so never mind. This map has those funky return rates on the gas nodes, so it's a little bit different there. But it also has the biggest rush distance to kind of make up for that, so... No real worries, it feels like. We will be on for a very, very interesting end state, it feels like. The 2-gate into Hydrith, Kagrin. I mean, I don't really know if we're going to see that rogue gallery again. That's what I want to know. But Oya on qualification point, and Arbuz's back is against the wall. When I made the match thread for the grand final, Arbuz said, "Rip me," you know, R.I.P. me. Can't remember the last time I played a PVZ or a ZVP, right? And so he doesn't necessarily have the experience in the matchup that he would want. He wants to put up a grand finals worthy performance. I'd say game 1 had an interesting idea. Game 2 was kind of, you know, down to the wire until it wasn't. When it came to that Core push, it looked scarier than I think Oya was going to give it credit for. But he knew, he had the confidence that it was going to be all right. Now we have these Larvosks. Now we have these Hydras. Something that is a bit, it's not seen as much, I feel like, because we don't actually see Zerg players making Gosvaleths as much in Tier 2, the flying worker. But you can make Larvosks directly from the Gosvaleth, which, to me, is a pretty big advantage over the Hatch. If you think about the build time, you think about the slight resources that you save from the 50 minerals that the Kagrin requires. So, it's kind of interesting. Now, the Hydras are out. That's another thing that Arbuz lost in the first game, or in the game 2, the Knife's Edge. First Hydra just got domed immediately. Oya's switching away from Zealot Ecclesiast entirely. He's going much more Drac heavy into what Arbuz is doing, which I think is really interesting. And when Arbuz sees that, he does need to respect that. Now, Hydras are fast enough he can outrun and outpace the Gateway Army. He's got a couple more units back here. It looks like he might have been setting up for either a defensive detection or some fast drop. Arbuz has his expansion coming. He's still being tailed by Oya's forces. The chase is on. Drac Hierophant back at home. Looks like they're going to sync back up, and Arbuz will need to invest in a little bit of extra military, extra oomph. Sometimes just by chasing your opponent's ground army with your ground army versus Zerg, you can do economic damage by reducing their worker count. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen a lot of Zergs, you know, have to, all right, I got to respect that. I got to make these workers, or instead of making these workers, I got to make these units. A pool. Okay, Arbuz wants to flood Zeth Vorv maybe after getting up to his Hydra and Core. Army-wise, they're about even, especially with this extra Hierophant, but you got to watch out, or the extra Core, but you got to watch out for the Hierophant there, stunning, or slowing things down, getting things just a little bit shooting fast on the Protoss side. Couple Dracs. Still no third production. Instead, it's a fast expansion from Oya. So we're seeing adaptations galore out the wazoo here in favor of Oya so far, but this is looking like a good initial fight. Arbuz being guarded against the Kabbalist, hasn't sent his Obeleth, hasn't revealed it yet either, I don't think. Positioning all of the Striders all over the place. Hardened Authority and third Gateway. Oh, he cancels it. He wants it to be in the right line, you know? He's a stickler. Kind of gathering a lot of his Striders up at the 1 o'clock. Bit of a slower mid-game now. Or first 5 minutes, I should say. But at the very least, Arbuz has found a much more stable ground. Feels like, you know, when you have to do a reverse sweep. Now, Arbuz has done it versus Shopkeeper Dog already. So there is that to think about. But it does feel like when we look at the way that Arbuz is approaching this, he's got a lot to deal with. He's got a lot of ground to cover. And, yeah, sure, he's got a scary-ish army. But he needs to leverage this into a position of greater power, especially economically. Doesn't have a lot of workers. He's starting to make some more now. Remember, his opponent is on 2 mining bases. Got that static defense coming in, capping the ridge. Doesn't have it in the main base just yet, but he can add that later. And he's got a scary amount of Striders as well. No Ensnare here. Arbuz going for the Skiback Scab instead. The Hydra Salvo initially looking good for him. He wants to just get in the face of Oya here. See how much damage he can actually do. Look at him popping those Striders, man. The Hydras are scary units. Remember, the Matrix and Warden are finishing up here. Oh, Arbuz might be just going for the kill here. Hold on. 2 Dracodons coming out of the rally soon. Now trying to lay in. Oh, the Ecclesiasts are walking right into death. That is not how you wanted that production tab to go. That round of production to go. The Warden will be the next target. I think maybe Oya can actually finish this off. Oh, well, maybe not. Low HP Draken focus down. But yeah, there's no reinforcements coming behind this. Arbuz, he's doing a lot of military damage here. And I don't think Oya expected this timing whatsoever. He delayed his third gateway for a very long time. Little micro going a long way for him. And he's down to the one standing Drak, but he's got 3 more. Well, 2 more on the way that just came down and 3 more in production. Zeth Hydra. You know, if Arbuz had just hit the make unit button, he might have just won the game right then and overwhelmed Oya. We could have been already moving on to game 4. If we will see that, it will be Frosted Forest as Arbuz's second pick. Oya banned Acid Test, our port of litmus. Crisis Vector was banned by Arbuz once again. Shout out as he takes his third base. Second round bans were Rage Slave by Oya, Battle Spectre by Arbuz. So now you guys know the complexion. If we somehow need a decider, it'll be Paradise. I'm starting to believe in Arbuz for this game, though, that's for sure. We've got that third base coming. Some more static defense being attempted to warp in. The Warden will be done for a good portion of the time now. And it's a good number of Hydras, but they don't have the Izira Core frontline that they did before. So let's see if the Zephyr Cores can do much of anything. Oh, there's then a Cantor as well. You can see Arbuz pairing off his Hydras to try to dive on top of it, but it gets those much-needed connections, and the Warden, it loses its shields, but still has all of its health. Much less effective attack now. Arbuz has 1,000 minerals in the bank. He puts down the Macro Hatch inside his natural. He's trying to add a little bit more larva production. Down by 20 workers. Much better army count, but the tech is starting to swing in favor of Oya. Remember that the Ski Bact was made by Arbuz, but he hasn't actually made any Bactals yet. Adding another Macro Hatch. He's got a lot of them, to be fair, you know. I would love to see even more. And there it is, the Vornath on the way. He knows that he needs to spend down some of his minerals, particularly on Vorvs. It would help him out quite a bit. Sniping the Acantor is big, especially with the proclivity that Oya has shown for Servitors. It might be some time before he gets more crowd control off. But we are going to see the Asciliant, one of Oya's favorite units for the Protoss. 3 Bactals on the way. We're going to see 12 pairs of Zets, so definitely some Vorvs in our future. Arbuz putting some respect on his name here as the third base is going to be taken by Oya, but you know, Arbuz already has his third up and running. Could have some more workers on it, of course, but right now it's getting the gas, and sometimes that's all you need. No gas caps for our Zerg player, I'm noticing, and no ridge harvesting going on at all in the natural. Point of contention, perhaps. Nexus Pylon. Old habits die hard, but Oya also wants to be able to warp in some defense before the Nexus itself, which does act as a power field in Cause Monarchy. Finishes up. The Zets will come in and explore. He's going to confirm sighting of the sort of third base. What would you call this? Inner 11? inner 10 on the clock. Open ground third base for sure. It's going to be a lot of Bactalisks. I almost prefer the Hydras versus what Oya is doing. But if he can get some kind of something to hold down the fort in the mid-range. Doesn't have to be Hydras, can be anything else. And we have an Argosy on the way. Oya wants to go Solarion, I think. He's shown a proclivity for Solarion as well, hasn't he? Versus Zeki in particular. Huge path of Zets here. There's 54 Zets. You might see those just right-clicked into the natural or something, maybe the third base, and tear it down, while the rest of the army is here defensively. Fourth base being attempted. That's going to have to be canceled. Arbuz didn't even bother looking at it. He's going to let him full kill it. He's going to instead wrap his bulk of his army back over here. And the Zets are, yeah, they're going to the natural, all right. Holy moly. I thought maybe they'd hit the third base. It's actually better for Arbuz that he goes after the natural here. Trying to sink on to the Asciliant while he can. Not able to micro after that surround. Excellent play. Oh, no. Oh, I think he right-clicked his own unit and put a follow order on or something. A little bit of micro flub. You know, not as effective, not as impressive as maybe we thought it would be. Maybe if he ran into the main, but there were 3 Wardens there, so a bit difficult. He snipes the Asciliant. Honestly, like, what was the... If you just say for a clean number, it's 60. Just 30 times 25? That's not that much money, honestly. that's pretty... it was probably okay in terms of cost efficiency for Arbuz. Again, not harvesting from his ridge. What's up with that? Very gas-gated right now. Arbuz adding more macro hatches to the picture. Hasn't been able to successfully take a fourth. He's making a lot of orbs. They're only about halfway complete, but the Bactals will range down some of Oya's units. As, you know, Asilians have pretty good armor. As the Hierophants and Servitors, though, they do not. And the Zealots, when they lose out on some of that shielding, they also lose a little bit of armor. The Bactalists will get a little bit more value from there. One of the Asilians has already gone down. We got 2 more with this army to channel those bounces. I don't know, this is looking like a pretty scary force. This is as Oya's transitioning into some Solarians. One of them has arrived. You can see that Arbuz is concerned about this position. His Bactals are dealing with all the stewards, but he hasn't been able to create much of a front line, much distance, and his Bactals are slow. They're slow units, man. Oh, he kills one of his own Bactalisks with a misclick. Just helping Oya out, saying you're not doing enough. Now we've got the Nexus on the way at the 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock position, rather. That's going to be the 4th base as 7 o'clock is being taken once again. Look at this. Nathracor is coming out. Arbuz wants to spend down some of his gas and see if he can't just kind of right-click the Solarian. Oya will sometimes attack. You know, well, Protoss players in general sometimes attack to get their stewards out. I don't quite know what's up with that because he's only got a couple. 8 Iziracors, 5 more pairs of Nats. He basically wants to pinch off these things. They're not quite like Scourge, obviously. They take some time to kill. But rending the armor and doing a lot of anti-air damage. Solarians are probably the best at holding on for dear life against that. Oh, and we've got a synthetic cyanide. If a Demiurge comes out, you know, the Nats are not going to be very helpful. It might be Empress instead. Oh, yeah, it does like that versus Terran, for example. Tries to short-circuit the reclamation effect. Solarian number 4 is on the way. That's a scary number for Arbuz to be dealing with. His army is mostly out here. Nat's looking for their target. Maybe he can just go ahead. There's no splash damage here for Oya, so it's not a bad call to go for something quite like that. You can see they're dogging around and looking for something. Here we go. The flyover is big. Let's see what they can do. Well, one of them is being hit. One of them is being hit pretty big, actually. But it looks like it will endure. The ground army, though, has been mulched in the meanwhile. Arbuz might be pretty close to breaking through here. The Bactals bouncing down all the stewards. The Hydras, they're busy dealing with the stewards instead of the ground army now. But eventually you run out. Eventually you run dry. And there's not much left on the ground here for Oya. He's going to have to endure. He loses another Asilian. His gateway units are soon to be dumpstered as well. The Solarians seem to force Arbuz back. They will not give chase. Worried about what's next. Worried about what's coming out of the rally. It's just a bunch of Hydras. 13 more on the way. A pack of Zets might be able to run in and do a little bit of damage, but there's rally units there, so it looks unlikely. Adding more defenses to... Look at this, the forward outpost with multiple engrams. A Vibrance is revealed. The Zets are just right-clicked into the main base. They're going to get a full scout off on the tech. Hydra backed. Doing so much damage right now. A lot of the stewards are very low. They needed time to replenish. And you can tell there's a lot of Hydras here. Where are the reinforcements? Need to get some of them in. Especially with these extra units. The Vibrance might help out with the shield restores. Oh man, he's got so many Hydras left to go. Now he's going to try some Vithrilisks, it looks like, as Skiths are on the way. Does he have the Swamp? He does not yet. He might just be going for a worker raid then. So even though the Solarians have been, you know, ineffective at, like, killing the entire army, they haven't been being killed themselves. A couple of gateway units being misplaced here by Oya. Cycling through everything that he can. This is a bit of a slobber knocker. Yeah, now the Swamp is on the way. He's going to be able to upgrade his Skiths into Viths and see which armor end that he can do. Honestly, keeping a few of the Skiths as Skiths and then having them do their damage to armor-reduced targets is pretty good. Pretty big. Looks like the Swamp will complete, and the 7th Solarian has warped in. Pretty impressive stuff right about now. All right, he's making the 4 Viths. He's got lots of Hydras. He's got lots of Skiths. It can be pretty deadly. Try to reduce some of that armor. Base number 5 is in the cards here at the 1 o'clock. The whole army trying to go after this one pair of sets. That's a bit curious. Does open up. I mean, there's a lot of static defense being made. Pros make static D. You heard it here first. There's more Zethar cores where that came from, of course. Seeing more Bactyls be made. It's a scary looking Zerg army. The clash is going to be big. One thing that's a little bit tricky here is that you are going to want to put the Vithralisks on the Solarions themselves, right? You want to be able to do some kind of stack like that. This looks like an okay fight here. Let's see. They're trying to dive backwards. They're ignoring the Empress right now. Oh, all of the Hydras are getting bowled over by the front line, though. Is this fight going to start turning? You can see the Zerg Air not able to engage onto the Solarions themselves. And this feels like it's a little bit too much. The Empress has been tagging along in the meanwhile. Instead of spreading all of their damage, instead of reducing the armor collectively, they were all busy dealing with just one stack, one Empress here, one Empress there, maybe the Magister, and that should be it, unless Arbuz has a big stack of other units. No, that's the last one. Oya is going to qualify to the Battlement stage 3-0 in every series played. Arbuz not able to get it over the line. His last fight, not the best taken. Wasn't able to get anything done with the Zethar cores. He just needed them to have 10 more health, I'm telling you. Don't worry, Arbuz. I got your back. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for even more action with Cosmonarchy. We've got non-stop action, it feels like, with the tournaments, with the competitions. But for now, we'll take a little bit of a break from there, cast some other matches, some more for fun matches, perhaps. So we'll see you on the channel for those videos. GG.